But not
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Normally do Jaya Radha Madhava? Do we normally do that before the... That's a normal? That's normal? Okay, we'll try to be normal. I noticed that everyone was very, very enthusiastic for the kirtan tonight. Very special opportunity. It's actually the Yuga Dharma. It's the process of understanding our eternal relationship with Krishna through this process of Harinam, Kirtan, Chaitadarpana Marjanam Bhava Mahaninavarpana. The chanting of the holy name cleanses the heart of so many things so many desires that are there. It's compared to dust on a mirror. If there's dust on a mirror and you look in it, you won't be able to see yourself because it's covered with dust. And so in the same way, our hearts are covered by the dust of material desires. They're called anarthas, unwanted things, so many unwanted things on the heart. And these things are cleansed simply by the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Krishna's name is none different than he himself. Krishna is present in the name. And while we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is actually dancing on the tongues of the chanters. Especially if we can get to the point where we want Krishna. Just like different things we want, right? There's different things we want. So we pay special attention to get them. So if we really, really want Krishna, then the cost is that we have to let him know. And that's what we do when we chant. The chanting is meant to come from the heart. The heart is the seed of the soul. The heart is the seed of the super soul. The super soul there present within the heart encourages these living entities to take on whatever desires they have, or to help them with whatever desire they may have. And so if we desire Krishna, the super soul within the heart will make arrangements so that we can become closer and closer to Krishna. But if we desire something outside of Krishna, some material desires, and we all know what they are, they're unlimited. Literally, they're unlimited. And so if our consciousness is there, then that's what we'll get. The super soul will tell us, okay, I'm not going to interfere with your independence. Because independence, we're by nature independent, because Krishna is independent. And inasmuch as Krishna is independent, we also have that independence, but qualitatively the same, but quantitatively different, not different. Understand? The different? The same quality. We have the same quality as Krishna. Sat Chit Ananda. We have an eternal form full of knowledge and happiness, because that's the nature of Krishna. So we also have that. So Krishna has it in full. We have particle. We're minute. We're viva. Krishna is the supreme, and we are subordinate. And when we give up our subordination to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we end up in the jungle of the material energy. Very difficult to untie the jungle of the material energy. So we'll chant. Do you normally chant Jaya Radha Madhava? Is that normally the process? Okay. So I'll do that. And sometimes if my voice is in a cooperative mood, I go for a little longer than 5 minutes. Sometimes I go 10 minutes. Sometimes I go 15, 20, 25. Let's just see what the house wants. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama louder. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Still can't hear you. Getting better. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Let's get into it a little bit. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Wake up, Haribol. Let's try one more time. All together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. All together, one more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One more time, one more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all for participating. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Ajam Smridam Dasha Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschachadeshakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we'll hear a little bit about Krishna explaining through the Bhagavad Gītā. Somehow or another this isn't right. Can it come from that side?
Certainly.
It just doesn't, something seems wrong. I can't see anybody, it's like right there. There we go, that's a little better. So tonight we'll hear a little bit about Krishna and his servants, the demigods, and how Krishna engages them, and how Krishna encourages us, if we want, to take shelter of them. And he also tells us what his position is, how he's organizing this whole thing. So before we go to today's verse 22, which was actually scheduled, there's a very famous verse, Kamasta Jnana Prabhajante Devata, that those whose intelligence has been stolen. Anybody here ever have anything stolen from them? Nobody here has had anything stolen from you? Raise your hands if you've had something stolen. Okay, let's get going. So, Krishna is saying, those whose intelligence has been stolen. Now, if somebody steals something from you, what's the first thing you'd like to know?
Who is stolen? Why is stolen?
Yeah, who is stolen? Very good, Vishnu. Who is stolen from me? And why did he do it? So here Krishna says, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires. Our intelligence has been stolen by material desires. Anybody here have material desires? Raise your hand. Anybody here experience your intelligence being depleted because of material desires? Oh, must have some very intelligent people here. those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires, what do you think Krishna says next? Raise your hand if you have an idea. What do you think Krishna would say? Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires, what do they do? Yes, please?
They surrender to Krishna.
Close, but no. What did it get? Balloon? Huh?
No cigar.
No cigar. Yeah, we don't smoke cigars anymore. If your intelligence has been stolen by material desires, you're going to surrender, but to what? The demigods, yeah. So this means that if we have an affection or affinity for worshiping or praising the demigods, it's a symptom that our intelligence has been broken down or what do they call it? Disassembled. And we render the service unto the demigod. And when they do that, this also has a set of rules. You can't just say, Chandra, 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 I need a new car, Chandra, Chandra. You can't, it doesn't work like that. There's rules and regulations for serving or surrendering to the demigods. And so the unintelligent people, they follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. What are the different natures? Anybody have an idea what the natures are? Raise your hand if you have an idea what what is described here as their own natures. Yes, Vishnu.
Nature is generally when you see things around. You see this guy is rich, I want to be rich. He's very rich, but I want to be more richer than him and be better.
That's just like a different example that I was looking for, Vishnu. The nature is goodness, passion, and ignorance. You spoke about the passionate guy, which is very good. You got 1 out of 3. And so the passionate person, he's very, very eager to gain funds, to gain money. He wants to move up on the social ladder. And so according to our nature, if we're in the mode of goodness, we'll surrender to this type of thing. If we're in the mode of passion, then we go that way. And so everything is being controlled by the modes of material nature. I have some competition in the room. Who's that little competitioner? And so just like in the 3rd chapter of the Gita, it really clarifies these modes of material nature. Prakritim samadhishtaya. Prakritim samadhishtaya. I know. I can't believe I blanked out on that one. I would think some of them are that I haven't remembered for a long time. Oh yeah, Prakriti kriyamanani guna karmani sarvasaha ahankara vibhudatma kartaham itamanyate. So what this verse means is that everyone has a particular type of mode of nature which they're being controlled by. Shri Shri Gornitai Hi Jai. And the interesting thing about being controlled by the modes of material nature is that we don't even know it. Imagine if somebody had complete control over you and you didn't know what they were doing. How would you feel about that? Anybody here like to have somebody totally controlling your life and not even being like visible to you? Totally controlling your life. Does anybody understand what we're saying? This verse is said, the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. We think we're doing things, but what's really happening is that our particular nature, be it goodness, passion, or ignorance, it's our driving force which engages us in all kinds of action in this world. Interesting thing here. 3 modes of material nature are like the 3 primary colors. Are there any school-age children that would know the three primary colors in the room? Yes, please. Blue, red, very good, very good. So what happens if you put 2 drops of blue, 3 drops of yellow, and 3 drops of red, you get one specific color. And each and every one of us in this room has a certain number of drops of red, blue, and yellow. And that makes up our nature. And by that nature forces us to act. And as we're acting according to that nature, we don't even know it's doing it to us. It's like an invisible force. It's an invisible force that pushes us. Just like, I don't know if anybody gets cars in Hong Kong. You say you want to get a new car. You go to the new car place, and you want the red one. I want the red one. And you're thinking, I chose the red, I take the red one. Handshake deal, red car. Is that you deciding that? Who's making that decision? It's the nature you have compressed within us, forcing you to choose the red one, forcing you to choose the yellow one, forcing you to choose the black one, or the yellow one, or the pink one. We think it's us, but it's actually not us. So this, anyway, I missed my chapter 7. So this is the nature. This is the nature of the material world. So those who are freed from material contamination, if we can become freed from material contamination, then what will we do? If we have the contamination that our intelligence has been stolen by material desires, if we rid ourselves of that contamination, then what do we surrender unto? Anybody have an idea?
Then we surrender to the Supreme.
Yeah, there, that's good. Very good, very good. And what does surrender to Krishna mean? What is the Sanskrit word for surrender? Sanskrit word for surrender is papadjante. Pada, just like we heard of padayatra before. So you do padayatra, it means you're walking. You're walking, you're doing a yatra, I'm walking. So papadjante means that we're walking closer to Krishna. We're moving closer to Krishna. And how does that moving closer to Krishna happen? There are many things that engage us like this, but one of the most important things is who we associate with. Our association that we have in this world is so important. Like Prabhupada, even in the Ishopanishad, Prabhupada explains that they have like the Better Business Bureau for people who are interested in business. They have, actually, in the one lecture he gave, he said there's even a diabetes association, people who have diabetes. And he said there's so many people with diabetes that this association makes a magazine every month, charges them $5, $10 for the magazine, and they're making a lot of money off them having diabetes. But they have associations so they can feel sorry for themselves. They can say, what do you do when this happens? What do you do when that happens? And they get a little upliftment. And so that's the nature. So we engage in the Supreme Personality of Godhead with devotional service, and we try to get the contamination washed off. What was the first thing I think one of the first things I said today was that the chanting of the holy names cleanses the heart of all unwanted things. Now, sometimes we don't even know what the unwanted things are. Sometimes they look like things that we should want, but we know we can't. We know they're not. Some of them we don't even know that they're not good for us. Even if things in the mode of goodness may seem to be good to us. But if we become attached to those things in the mode of goodness, that mode will carry you into another body in your next life, but you'll get a nice body because you've been nice. The modes of material nature are very stringent. And so as long as it's there, we want to get it to the point where it is completely washed off. And those who can't get to this point, their ability to surrender to Krishna is reduced. And that's the ultimate goal of life. Another verse, which is 21. There's 4 verses in this section, 20, 21, 22, and 23. They all line up for different aspects of Krishna's explaining the demigods to Arjuna. I am in everyone's heart as what? Raise your hand if you know how is Krishna's in your heart. What is Krishna in the heart called? Yes, in the back, in the blue. Paramatma, yeah. Antrayami, Paramatma. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, what do you think Krishna does? Raise your hand. You're stealing my, please. Please, it's okay.
Krishna accept that also.
Huh?
Krishna accept that also.
He accepts that, but he doesn't. Accepting is a different thing. This is an action.
He fixes his mind in his.
He makes one's faith very, very steady and strong. Why? So that that person can actually devote himself to that particular deity and become devoted to that deity. But again, we have to understand that we were discussing before that Krishna has given us independence. And if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have these types of facilities, we can understand that the demigods we think it's coming from the demigods, but it's actually coming from the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is situated in our heart as a super soul, and he grants that. It's like I won't say we can't say conspiracy or anything like that, but Krishna, we have a desire. The super soul knows it. The demigods understand it. The demigods have to go to Krishna, because none of the things can be given to the demigod, because it's all ultimately coming from Krishna. And so when we have all these things, just like it's described that the super soul is, what do you say, in everyone's heart, and he understands and gives facilities to anyone. If you want to worship the demigods, you'll get that. That's the same way I feel. That young child crying, that's actually how I feel most of the day. The only thing is, I've lost my ability to express myself with such vigor. Very, very enthusiastic to let everybody know that it's a dangerous place. We cry inside. We cry inside. Isn't it? We cry inside. We cry for what we want, for what we lost, for what we didn't get. Very, 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 very unique position. Ashashvitam. You can understand philosophy even from the cry of a child. The depth of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness goes very, very deep, and it's very, very broad. Just like everything we see is connected to Krishna. Of course, these pictures are connected to Krishna. We're all devotees here. But when you go outside the temple, Krishna is present. There's no place that Krishna doesn't, not going to say occupied, but Krishna is omnipresent. That's a word for that, omnipresent. He's present everywhere. And so if we can just learn to train ourselves to see Krishna If we can just train ourselves to see Krishna in everything and anything and everything, then we'll never be disappointed. Because we'll see Krishna's hand. When we see Krishna's hand, it's a loving hand. Even if the hand is going like that sometimes, it's a loving hand. Krishna's ultimately everywhere. We have to train ourselves. That's what Krishna consciousness is all about. This is an educational society. It's not a religious society. It's an educational society. It's meant to educate us to understand our eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're meant to learn. We're meant to study. We're meant to participate in these things. Many of you may have heard me give this example before, because I use it a lot. You're driving down the road and you don't have an electric car. Well, maybe you have an electric car. You're driving down the road and your car breaks down. The car stalls. And you get out of the car and you open up the hood. If it's an electric car, it's probably just a battery, but if it's a unregular kind of car, there's an engine in there. And you're looking at it thinking, why doesn't it run? And you're scratching your head. You don't, why? What's wrong? Everything looks normal. You call the mechanic. Mechanic has to charge you so many dollars just to get to your car. It's a good money-making business. The mechanic goes there, reopens the hood, moves a couple of things, and the car runs. What's the difference between the mechanic and me looking in the cover, under the cover of the car? What's the difference? I'm looking, I'm seeing the exact same thing that the mechanic eyes are seeing. What's the difference between myself and the mechanic? Anybody have an idea? Raise your hand. Yes?
Mechanic understands
Oh.
what exactly is the...
Yeah, okay, there was two hands. There was a little one back there too. Yes, that's very, very good. The mechanic was trained. Right, let's go. That's very good. A++, 2 stars on your paper. So all we need to do is get some training to understand where Krishna is. And Krishna is the kind of person that if you're looking for him, he will reveal himself to you. But there's a price. And the price is that we must give our attention to Krishna. Now today's text, there's a little more here. Some people may ask why the all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying in the material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of illusory energy. Why does God allow us to get in Maya? Anybody have an idea? Raise your hand. But why are we allowed to engage in material activities? Even though there's a nice verse in the 3rd chapter that describes Arjuna is asking Krishna that why am I impelled to do things that I don't want to do? Is that being forced by something outside of me? And Krishna says it's desire. So going back to what was my question? What was my last question? See who's paying attention? Nobody? I can't remember either, so don't. We were talking about the mechanic, and then we were talking about oh yeah. I remember I asked you, why would Krishna allow us to be in the material? What? Does Krishna, is he kind of like a bad guy sometimes and just like lets people into the material world? Or is Krishna all good all the time? God has to be all good all the time. God is never bad. Sometimes he looks a little bad during Damodar Leela, but that's just like Leela. That's just like Leela. The reason Krishna does that is because, as we were stating before, that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have the same qualities as Krishna, but in limited quantity. And so the same way, Krishna is known as Sarat, or independent. So because we have Krishna has independence, we also have independence. And by the misuse of our independence, we decide to not serve Krishna. We decide not to serve the Supreme Lord. We make that decision. It's not Krishna forcing us. And I've heard that Prabhupada had said that Krishna is trying to talk you out of it when you're going. No, don't. You're not going to like it. It's not going to be fun down there. But yet we try to find fun. Isn't it? There's a nice verse, second chapter, where it describes that one whose intelligence is not fixed in Krishna consciousness cannot have a steady mind. Anybody here not have a steady mind? Anybody here have a steady mind? Full of their mind. We could just talk on the mind for a week or months. Anyway, cannot have a steady mind. And without a steady mind, we can't be peaceful. Has anybody ever noticed that the mind sometimes makes you unpeaceful? It makes us unpeaceful. Every time. Yeah. And so, without a controlled mind, there can be no happiness. And that's all everyone is looking for. Because by nature, Krishna is Anandamaya Vyasa, and we are also Anandamaya Vyasa. We are pleasure-seeking entities. That's our nature. We're pleasure-seeking entities. And so Krishna, anybody here ever hear me speak here at the Hong Kong temple before? Raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, okay. A lot of new people here. I gave an example of blaming Krishna. Blaming Krishna for being in the material world. It's kind of a funny story. I do believe it was given by Srila Prabhupada. Jesse, may I use your name? Do I have permission to use your name? Yes or no?
No.
You're going to turn out good. Don't worry.
It's okay.
Okay. So say Jessica, is opening Jessica's gold and jewelry shop. Has anybody heard Prabhupada tell this story? I'm a thief. I'm Ṛtadhvaja Swami, a known thief in the community. But I'm watching her build this business, organizing, fixing up the building, doing all kinds of things, having Brinks trucks bring in all the gold and jewels and stuff and setting them up. And I'm thinking, Jessica, man, I don't know if she's really that smart. I mean, she's pretty good, I know. Then I think, I'll rob her store. I know I won't get caught. But Jessica is a little more intelligent than I thought. Because when I go into the store to steal the gold and jewelry, Jessica has a little button that all she has to do is touch it with her lotus foot, and it calls the police. The police are they're instantly, no, there's a little switch, and it calls the police. And the police come as I'm walking out the door, and they go, Jessica, is this the person? Yes. And I say, no. I have him on, what do they call that, video? Like surveillance video? I have him on surveillance video. And the police look in my bag and they find all the jewels and gold. The jewelry and gold. And so they take me down to jail. I'm in jail, and then what happens next? Guess what? Raise your hand if you know what happens after you go to jail. Something else happens, generally within a few days after that. Where do you go? After you've been in jail, you go to court. You go to the judge. So the judge, Bhaktatam, he asked me, are you innocent or guilty? I said, Your Honor, Bhaktatam, I am 100% innocent of this crime. And Tom goes, oh boy, here Mars goes again. Here he goes again. He says, Mars, how is it that you're not guilty of this? And I say, Judge Tom, if Jessica had never opened her jewelry store, I would have never robbed her. It's Jessica's fault. So people will say, if God gave us independence, therefore it's God's fault. It's not my fault, it's God's fault. There's a nice verse, fifth chapter. There's a nice verse. There's two verses. Nakartatam Nakarmani. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. It's all being operated by the modes. We think, again, because we're bewildered, we think we're doing it. But it's done by the material energy, the modes of nature. In the next verse, very interesting, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. He's not going to take it. He doesn't take it. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. There's a really nice part of the purport. Anybody like to hear this nice part of the purport? Okay. Open your ears. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. And it's been going on since time immemorial, it says here. Since time immemorial, we've been trying. It doesn't work. Consequently, although we are constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of our existence, we forget our constitutional position as service to the Supreme Lord and are thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of this nescience or ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditioned existence. That's just like I just said. I said Jessica's the problem. I don't have a problem. I don't have any problem. Any questions? Tom?
Maharaj, I'm curious, this is maybe a very silly question, but coming from a Western background, having grown up in the United States, and when we read these stories like this about, the conditioned soul, when turned away from Krishna, will then turn towards the demigods. Most Americans growing up, they're not conscious of the demigods in the same way as, for example, somebody whose Indian body is.
Okay.
Can you speak to this? I'm assuming that they're still present.
Yeah. Oh,
Nobody can hear you.
Yeah, he needed a mic. So his question is, in South Asia, areas, people are conscious, they understand the demigods. But in Western countries, we don't understand the demigods that much. So how does this play? How does this play in the role of Western consciousness? And the Western consciousness is something that we earn from our previous life, so that we're not allowed to understand the subtle things of this world. Sometimes they say the further west you go, the darker it gets. The further west you go, because the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. And so we can find that even worshiping the demigods is better than nothing. Because by doing that, what time is it? By doing that, we can gain some faith. Because if, just like we have this worship of the demigods, and and this information is given to us by the Brahmanas who are inside the Upanishads and all these other higher literatures in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas. And so what they do is they give these directions for Karmakanda, just trying to gain something materially. And then when they see that it actually works, then they don't see the Brahmins or the Upanishads, people in the Upanishads doing, what are they doing? Let me see what they're doing. Because if they're not doing, they must be doing something better. And so they gain their faith and they slowly move closer and closer to Krishna. We don't blaspheme the demigods. Demigods are the administrators of the whole material world. It's just like you don't go around, what would you say, cursing out your boss or something like that at work because you know it doesn't work. We have positions. They have positions. They are a soul exactly like us. I mean, it's a different soul. Everyone there's a different soul, but they're similar. So the demigods have just earned the piety or the sukriti to be able to hold that post. They won the vote. Indra won the vote. Like that. And so when we do like this, we're controlled the same way. Okay? Other questions? Sure.
I want to ask Raj if that means the only way that we can actually overcome these qualities, material qualities, whatever, goodness, passion, ignorance, affecting us, is only when we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we do the service, only then these qualities in ourselves will reduce.
Yeah.
And we will be able to identify our actual position at some point.
This is answered. I just can't remember where they're exactly at. It's a gradual process. It's a very gradual process. And through the engagement and understanding, just like Prabhupada he didn't condemn the Torah or the Bible or the, what's the Islamic one? Quran. He didn't talk anything bad about them. He said that they have a basic understanding of how to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it's just like if you're in the first grade, you learn first grade stuff, and then you're allowed to enter the second grade. Then you learn second grade stuff, and you're allowed to go to the third grade. So Prabhupada would explain that these religious traditions are very, very, they're good for a certain section of society, because at least they come to the mode of goodness. Don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't steal. I mean, like the 10 Commandments, just one God, there's not many gods. I mean, we come to the point of understanding, slowly but surely. And as devotees of the Lord, because we have the great fortune of understanding who God is, where He lives, what He does, what He looks like, what he doesn't, everything. But it's like a professor. Say there's somebody that quantum physics, double PhD, and he goes to the second grade class and he sees them just doing subtraction. He doesn't say, you kids don't know. No, the PhD, triple PhD, what kind of quantum physics professor says, very good, very good, very good. You're doing well, just keep going, keep going. And eventually he'll go to the point where he's allowed by his nature to get to that point. It's not, we can't make ourselves smarter. We can gain intelligence. We can't go beyond that which is given to us by our previous activities. We can't go past that. We think if we work harder, we can make more money. But there's a certain amount of money that's allotted to every person when they come to this world. Every single thing is provided. Exactly what we are given by our previous actions, and we can't erase that. But we can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, and clear that out, and minimize, and then at least stop committing the sinful activities that got us into the material world in the first place. Gain that knowledge. If we can gain that knowledge, then we can learn detachment. By knowledge and detachment, one can attain the Supreme. Okay, I think we have a little person. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Nice to see many of you again. Hope to see you again many, many, many times.
Let us all thank His Holiness Ṛtadhvaja Swami Maharaj with a loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Thank you so very much, Maharaj.
Thank you for inviting me. I see so many familiar faces. And some new ones too, right? Is anybody here tonight for the first time? I forgot to ask that question. Thank you for coming. How did you find out? Oops. Thank you. You're here for the first time. Thank you for coming. How did you find out? How did you find out about the temple?
I knew about ISKCON and I'm part of the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
But managed to come for the first time.
Okay, very good. Congratulations. Management means to manage to get yourself to Krishna, some way or another.
He called us.
Anybody? Any other ones here for the first time? He's half here for the first time because he's on the WhatsApp group. Yes, you're here for the first time.
It felt like India.
Oh, sorry?
It felt like India.
Feels like India.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many Indians around here. Very nice. What part of India are you from?
Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. Mumbai?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to Mumbai. I'll tell hi to your friends and tell them I met you. Okay, welcome. Please enjoy your chanting. Thank you all. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Srila Prabhupada ki.
We all have got feedbacks now with us. We're all going to chant a round of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, who would like to lead the chanting tonight? Maharaj. Maharaj Prabhu, could you please?
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Ṛtadhvaja Swami Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.